Next week on Tuesday, 30th of September, we are getting the next earnings report of one of the most famous brands in the world, which is Nike. As you can see right here, the price movement over the last 5 years was definitely horrible for Nike shareholders. In today's video, we are going to talk about whether it is a good decision to buy Nike stock before the earnings report. In order to answer that question, I will tell you what the most important thing for the Nike stock price is, and at the end of the video, I will exactly tell you whether I own the stock already or whether I'm going to buy the Nike stock before the earnings report on Tuesday. But first of all, make sure to understand that nothing I say is financial advice in any regard. Always do your own research. I think as an investor, it's always important to listen to other investors. What ideas do they have? And then you can decide on your own whether you agree or disagree. If you enjoy the content and can get some value out of it, please consider to leave a like, comment, or even subscribe to the channel. Thanks. So right now, Nike is trading a little bit below $70 and it dropped around 12% over the last month, and the forward PE ratio is at 42 right now, which is definitely not very low, and the market cap is currently $100 billion. So even though the last 5 years haven't been that good for Nike, it is still the most valuable sports brand in the world. But right now, let us talk about the most important thing for Nike. How can they make it possible to turn things around and make the stock price moving higher over the next 1 or 2 years? The main problem since 2022 and especially in 2023 and 2024 is that Nike lost customers to mainly two brands, which are in my opinion Adidas and Asics. They may also have lost some customers to other running shoe brands, but the sneaker market is the most important market for the Nike brand, which you will see in the next slides. 69% of Nike's revenue comes from footwear. The problem is that they don't separate lifestyle and running in their financial reports, but I think it's very obvious that the sneaker market is more important. I think it's pretty obvious that people have more Nike sneakers than Nike running shoes. I also asked ChatGPT to confirm that, and ChatGPT answered yes. In terms of share revenue, brand influence, margins, reach, footwear is more important to Nike than running shoes alone. So footwear without running shoes included. Running shoes are important as well, of course, especially for the athlete market to represent the brand. But in my opinion, it's even possible that soccer shoes are more important for Nike than running shoes. But I'm not completely sure about that. But the point I definitely want to make, the sneakers market is the most important market for Nike. And that's also the thing that suffered over the last 2 to 3 years because they lost market shares in the first place to Adidas and Asics. Recently, maybe even to Salomon. In Europe, definitely. I don't know about the US, but I can see that in Europe, people above 40 in Europe are also buying On shoes since maybe 2023. Then we also have some running shoe brands like Hoka or maybe Asics as well, which Nike could have lost some market share to. So right here you can see two of the most famous sneakers from Adidas in 2023 and 2024, which are the Adidas Campus and Adidas Samba. I don't know, do you pronounce it Samba in the US? In Germany we say Samba. But anyways, you can see right here how the search interest on Google increased in 2023 and 2024. And when we compare that to the performance of Google searches for Nike sneakers, like for example Air Force One, Air Max or Air Jordan, you can see how the search interest went down throughout 2023, 2024 and went even lower in 2025. And also when we take a look at the search term Nike itself, you can see how it trended lower since the beginning of 2023. Why is that important? It just shows us that web traffic for Nike products is going down or has been going down. When we take a look, for example, at Adidas, you can see how it went higher in 2024 compared to 2023. And especially when we take a look at Asics, you can see right here how the search interest for Asics shifted, and that definitely shows us that Nike lost market share. I also found this podcast on YouTube where this guy, who also owns a store where he sells sneakers, explained how Asics became so popular over the last 2 to 3 years, and he made it very clear that Asics took market share from Nike. So as I explained to you over the last 2 to 3 minutes, the biggest problem for Nike is the missing innovation in the sneaker market. They haven't been able to publish a new sneaker in 2024 or 2025 that experienced a real hype. For example, when we take a look at one of the last Air Max shoes, Air Max DN8, I barely see people in Europe wearing them. In my opinion, this shoe was definitely a flop, and the shoe couldn't gain the same attention like previous Nike sneakers. People are also less interested in Air Force One, and people also lost interest in the Nike Dunks, and a little hype around Nike Shocks and a little hype in the P6000 is definitely not enough to compensate the revenue that has been lost, because they are not selling the other sneakers as much as before. And the main point why I'm talking about the sneakers individually is that we as normal people would see if Nike released a new sneaker that catches attention, that everybody wants, that everyone is buying. We would see that before Wall Street, and the new sneaker that everybody wants is necessary for Nike to turn things around, to bring the stock price above $100 again. And if we would see that, we could front run Wall Street, because we would see that before them. And in order to strike back, in my opinion, they need a new sneaker that is hype, that young people want to buy. So Nike is still one of the most famous brands in the world. They recently announced their partnership with Kim Kardashian. That's definitely good to keep the premium brand image, but in my opinion, it is not going to affect sneaker sales in a larger scale. I still think that Nike is seen as one of the coolest brands among young people especially, but currently they are just struggling to release a new sneaker that everybody wants to buy. And the bad performance of the Nike stock price has definitely nothing to do with the bad economy. For example, when we compare it to the stock price of ASICS, you can see right here how much the stock price of ASICS increased over the last couple of years. People are definitely still buying sneakers every year, just not Nike sneakers right now. So even Deckers Outdoor, which the Hoka running shoes are part of, was able to double their stock price since 2022, even more. It shows us that companies who sell shoes can definitely rise in value, and the problem for Nike is something they created themselves. Let's take a look at the price chart. Right now, as I mentioned earlier, Nike is trading slightly below $70. We did bounce back from the low in April due to the tariffs, but we are far away from the old all-time high in October, November 2021, which is at $179. I don't see how the stock price of Nike is rising above $100 in 2026, but I don't say that they cannot beat earnings. Maybe they can, maybe they go up by 10%, but without a new sneaker that everyone wants to buy, I don't see how the price will rise again. Of course, from now on, it's possible every week that they release a new sneaker, which finally helps them to turn things around. But as long as I'm not seeing it, I'm definitely not going to buy the stock just because it's Nike. Don't fall in love with a stock. There are plenty of other options in the market. So I don't think that we see a big recovery in 2025. I also wouldn't short the stock. I still think Nike is a great company. It's a great brand, and they will turn things around in the next years. But right now, I'm just not seeing it. And one thing you also have to keep in mind, the economy and the stock market did very well since 2023. And what would happen to the Nike stock price if we would get a slowdown in the economy and a recession, and they still didn't come up with a great sneaker that everyone wants to buy? So if the stock market goes down as a whole, which could definitely happen within the next quarters, the bull market won't last forever. And in this case, I definitely don't want to own Nike stocks. But let me know your opinion down below in the comments. But I did buy one stock over the last couple of weeks. I also added more this week. If you want to find out why, you can check it out right here. Goodbye.